Reading is something a lot of us don't do. Some of us love it and some of us hate it. But reading is something that can help you in a lot of ways in your life. Reading can actually help you with consistency, to have a clear vision with your mental health. It can help you to focus better, not only into the reading itself, but also in other ways in life, like for example in studying, working out, and so on and so on. And it can also help you with creativity, which is a big thing nowadays when someone is creating, for example, content or making scripts, writing scripts, and creating text, for example. And for example, someone like me who does copywriting, script writing, and also content on social media. As someone who hated reading, and I mean, if I say I hated like, for example, reading 5 or 10 pages a day, I created a habit where I have no problem with reading long paragraphs, books, study materials, and I have no problems with creating text, scripts, or even copywriting, which I do now and which helps me a lot with my work. So I think it was very important to mention that I was never a big reader. I was never a big fan of books, and I created a habit where I have no problem with reading 1 or 2 hours a day. But if I would start reading, these would be my tips to actually choose, for example, the right book or the right material to read. If you are new to reading and if you want to start reading, the first tip that I would give you is to choose, for example, a book either with a topic that you love or with a topic that you know nothing about. But why should you choose these two? If you choose a topic that you love, there is a big chance that you will stick to it without any problems. For example, if you love Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, comics, any cartoons, there's a big chance that you will stick to it because you love the topic, you love the theme, and you already know, for example, in Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, because you saw the films, you already know the story, you know what it's all about, and you will stick to it because you actually love the story, the persons in it, and all around the topic. But if you choose, for example, a topic you know nothing about, for example, Germany or Japan, you will not only create a habit of reading if you read the book or the article, the newspaper, or the material, you will also learn something new. So you will have two things in one. And that is probably even better than choosing a topic that you love, because if you choose a topic that you love, you already know the story, you know how it ends, but you love it. You love the story, you love the characters, you love what it's all about. For example, Harry Potter. But if you choose something you don't know anything about, you will not only read, you will also learn something and probably fall in love with it later. So there will be 3 positive things at the end instead of just one thing. But again, you can still choose a book that you love. A lot of people do it. I also recommend it to choose a book that you love. But if you want to try something new, choose a book you know nothing about, or choose a material or text you know nothing about, and you will see maybe that you will fall in love with it later, learn something new, and continue reading. If you're right now just creating a habit of reading, and if you're starting with it, the second step or the second tip I would give you is to create a plan or keeping track of the pages you have read, or how many pages you have read, what you have learned. Because if you keep track of the things, it's very easy to look back and get motivated of the progress that you have made. For example, if you're reading, I have this book here, I will talk about it at the end of the video. It's a Czech book, it's about economics. But if you choose, for example, a book that has 200 pages, and you are at the page 150 or 100, and you keep a plan or a diary where you set a goal to read 10 pages a day, you can look back and see the progress that you have made. Some days you might actually look back and say, oh, I've not read only 10 pages, I've read 15 pages or 20 pages. And you will get motivated and you will actually feel better about yourself because you will see the progress, you will see the steps, you will see the road that you have done. And it will keep you motivated to stick to it, and then you will create a habit where you don't even have to keep track of it, because a lot of people love reading and they have just created a habit of it. So later on, for example, in a half year or even in a month, 2, 3, you won't even need a plan or a diary anymore. So if you're a new reader, choosing the right book and keeping a diary is not the only thing you could do. The next thing that also I did when I started reading frequently was that I told someone that I'm reading something. For example, this book, any other book, any material. I told someone, for example, a friend, a family member. I told it, for example, a good friend of mine. And if you tell it to someone, he will in 90% remember it. And for example, in a week or in 2 weeks when you have a conversation, he will, for example, mention it and ask you, how's your reading going? And then you have two options. You can either answer, yeah, it's going pretty good. I'm at page 100. I'm keeping track of it. I'm reading every day. I feel good about myself. I'm almost at the end. The book is very interesting, and so on and so on. Or option B, he will ask you, how is the reading going? And you have to tell him that you didn't even start. You don't know anything about the book, and that you will probably start tomorrow, and so on and so on. And in most cases, you will look like someone who has no discipline, no willpower, and that's what we don't want. We want to actually, stay disciplined. We want to read more. So you have to put a little bit of pressure on yourself, and that is why you should tell it to someone. And that happened to me. I told it to a friend, not in 2 weeks. He asked me, for example, in 2 or 3 days about the book, because I was reading a book I remember it was in English because I had to read a book in a German school, and it was a book in German, and he asked me about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm reading it. I mean, he remembered it because it was something very interesting, because people talk. I mean, you have a lot of topics to talk about, but sometimes we remember something a person told us, so he will probably bring it up. So telling it to someone is a way to get a little bit pressure on yourself and to stay motivated and to stay on track. The last tip I would give you is a tip that I did instead of looking, for example, into my phone on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, or films, is that I took my book everywhere I went. Everywhere I was, for example, I took a backpack and I went, for example, to work, to school. Even on a bus ride when I had, for example, games, I played ice hockey in the bus, I've read a book. Everywhere you go, you can just take the book with you, and if you have time, for example, between classes, if you have time between, I don't know, if you're, for example, in a train, you don't have to always look into your phone. You can look into a book. You can read something. You will actually feel better about yourself, because procrastination is a big thing. Instead of looking in your phone in a train, reading is a very, very good alternative instead of the phone. For example, me, if I go to Prague every 2 days or 2 times, 3 times a week, I'm always taking a book with me. I have right now 2 books in my backpack. One of these books is this book. And every time I catch myself on a phone, I just close the phone and I go to read a book. So reading a book is not only a thing you can do at home or anywhere else. You can also take it into a cafe, to work, to school, or somewhere else. You don't have to read it always at home. You can read it also somewhere else. You can also, in that way, inspire someone to read. So it's also a way how to inspire other people to read, because if someone sees you, that you read, someone can actually get a little bit motivated, and it can help him to, also start reading. So, I mean, reading was never a bad thing in the first place, and I think that reading helped not only me, but also it can help you in a lot of ways. Even though I'm not an expert in reading, I have never read like a book in a week. I'm just a normal guy who just created a habit of reading not only books, but also paragraphs, pages, study material, text for translations, blog posts, and so on and so on. Reading can clear your mind and help you with focus and concentration, because instead of looking at your phone and releasing dopamine, reading for 15 or 30 minutes, which is mentioned and also recommended by a lot of millionaires and successful people, and they're not wrong. Reading can help you to clear your mind and with creativity, and you can actually get a lot of ideas because you read, because it can also help you with relaxing. For example, me, I'm right now reading this book. It's a Czech book. It's about economics. I'm right now almost at the half of the book. It's about, how the economy works, how to invest, how to, deal with money. And it's also a book that helps me to, with studying, because I am going to a state exam, to my bachelor's exam in 1 year, so I have to study a lot. And this book is, like 300 pages or 200 pages thick, and there's a lot of information in it, not only about economics, but also about psychology. And yeah, that's the book that I read now. And So reading is a thing that can actually change your life a little bit. Again, discipline, concentration, and that stuff. And if you're new to reading, or if you're just starting, and if you want to start to read more books, more texts, more material, choosing something you love or something you don't know about, telling someone, and keeping track of it are the main tips I would give you to start with. So I hope that these tips were useful to you. I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment, and I hope that we can see us in the next video. Have a great day. See ya.